And I think we're live. We're leave-a-dee-doo-dah. Welcome. Happy Friday. Hold on one second. What's like a good starting a stream? This is a cool one. But let's all right. So I think we're good. I think we're live. I think it's going in Schmovin. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the Colorado Policy Angles live show. My name is Braden, and I'm here to talk to you about local legislation and things we can do to bring positive change to our state, as well as break down barriers for the everyday person to get more involved. It's been a busy week, and I'm excited to recap some of the highlights with you all. Let's get settled in. I am let's see. Have some new art in the background that I made this week that I'm excited to share with you all. That some of the moments from this week are a climate lobby day, an art, a sign making event where I worked on my art piece, and a celebration for a friend. In some ways, just playing catch up and working hard to take care of myself. I'm gonna pause the music for a second. I don't have my headphones plugged in yet, so it hopefully wasn't too reverb. And it's a little toasty in here. Let me see if I can get my speaker set up. I'll probably just put on my headphones actually. Let's see. Because it's toasty, I'm gonna take this jacket off, but I wanted to show my fit from Climate Lobby Day today. So let's go like this just a little. And go, let's see. Look. What y'all think? I think it's a nice combo with the jacket. And just generally, and I am gonna take this off because it's toasty. It's like our first 70-degree day in 3 months, 4 months. Okay. Let's fix this. Cool beans. And then let's get these guys settled in. If you're tuning in live or catching this later, go ahead and drop down in the comments, in the chat. Are you excited for spring? How is your end of February into March going? And anything in particular that you're super stoked and excited about? I think for me, it's just the warmer days in general. And the longer days. And typically, it takes me a while to like shrug off some of the like hibernating and like harder aspects of winter. But this year I have been doing better at maintaining my productivity and my energy through winter with certain vitamins and taking time for rest. But yeah, I'm excited for so much fun activities. Let me make sure my camera doesn't die at one point. Plug that power in. And here we are. Should we bring the desk down, take a seat? I have been standing a lot today. I was doing some walking. I'm actually curious how many steps I got in. Yeah, let's take a sit. Bring the chair. And then, yep, we have a pretty. Oh, I forgot to write. Look at policy. Policy. Today's a little bit more free flow, a little bit more catch up, sharing. And come in like that. Perfect. I think some of that's just when you're not getting great sleep and you're maybe staying up a little bit later than you should working on stuff, that it kind of just has that reverberating effect on your week. And then get in frame. Get in. Here we can do this maybe. Perfect. And then you have the day job, and then you're like hustling, and then you're like switch gears, do your own grind of channel plus like volunteer role that sometimes you're just like pushing for the weekend to get those rest days in. And then last weekend I had like 3 different events. So I feel like I've been just hustling since the weekend before that. But I know that many of you all know the grind, know that can be how life is sometimes. And yeah, sending you energy, sending you love. And we are out here vibing. I have a new post up that I'm like proud to share and excited to share that gave me some trouble. We'll just say that it the Instagram preview, like the text in the social media post was legible, and then I would post it and then it'd be blurry. And then that happened like twice, and I was working on this text and I was trying to get it out because it involves February, which is Black History Month, reflecting on the month, and I was like, I want to get this up. So I'm going to share this post. Let me switch over and make sure I do it right. We are, yep. I can't play the music because it's almost certainly copyrighted. But 5 steps to justice in America. Step 1, organize alliance and knowledge around the following steps. Step 2, decide on changes that we as people demand. We use technology to discuss and lift up the most necessary discussions and what solutions we rally behind. Step 3, we figure out how to take care and get by. We do this through resilience networks, again, technology, to communicate and collaborate. It is hard to suffer when you're being selfless, and the world needs less suffering. Let's take care of those most in need while organizing together. Step 4, secure democracy works. We have a chance to elect competence this year, so let us figure out which people are the more competent and we'll work with community leaders and our needs. We have the power if we fight for our democracy. Step 5, don't give up. Keep pushing on if you mean good. Someone needs or benefits from your spark. I have this playing to a Janelle Monáe song called Americans. And I mean, she makes beautiful music overall, but I felt like this connected to that. And this is something I wrote back in May of 2020, following the murder of George Floyd, and processing through the emotions as an adult, and being able to look at what happened and learn aspects of history and what's going on systemically. I'm someone who feels very deeply, and in a push to limit and minimize these things from continuing to happen, spent time on this 5-step plans to justice. The constraint of doing it in 5 steps helped be a vehicle to not over complicate or over. It really just was like a vehicle for creation, and putting out an idea and solutions for change. And then I also last night wrote a little bit about the background and where I've been at lately. And it talks about February and Black History Month flew by. I wanted to do more to learn this month, but being sick and tired made it hard. I will say it is some of my favorite history and her story, and learning is more than a 1-month sprint. I want to share a piece I wrote. Video, the murder of George Floyd, a video of so blatant hate and disregard for life jeweled me as a major moment. Knowing racism exists and seeing it go to murderous graphic stints is another. The last 4 years have been a storm, event after event, and yet the structure changes so slowly. Let the lives taken unjustly change you. Our system and communities do not have to always change so slowly. I wrote the above in attempts to forward a solution. Constraints can be a way to I'll have to get back to that person. Our system and communities do not have to always change so slowly. I wrote the above in attempts to put forward a solution. Constraints can be a way to channel ideas, so I gave myself the prompt of having to solve this issue in 5 steps. And I also shared that Jeff Farr did a month of interviews with educators and highlights for Black History Month. Check it out. His Facebook page has all the videos. And Janelle Monáe for being a modern artistic leader in the space. A nod to almost being Women's History Month and a special Leap Day. Some hashtags, and then I wrote out this chant this past week, which was, this is No Justice, No Peace is already a chant, and then what comes after it, I've heard a few different things, but then I put in there, no justice, no peace, no racist leaders, churches, or police. That's, I think, where the most terrible things come from, is when people are able to create the systemic change, preach the systemic racist beliefs, the things that are meant to divide us, and then the police who can follow those edicts and themselves have poor training, and then leads to deaths and murders. Anything else I want to say? Yeah, I think Janelle Monáe, modern artistic change makers who are paving a way around LGBTQ+, around using art to try to push forward different ways of perspective. Been doing it for years in a number of different areas. One of my favorite artists. So I wanted to include her there and call that part out. Non-binary, poly, just black woman kicking ass. I can say that on my show, right? Kicking ass. It's my show. The benefits being your own boss. And then Jeff Fard, who is only really active on Facebook? You have a picture with Beyonce? Uh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, he like if Jeff, I always follow you. Um, like you're you do great content. You put it out there, but you only put it out there on Facebook. What's up with that? You could be slaying on YouTube. Not only slaying, it could be way easier to find and navigate if on YouTube than scrolling around your Facebook page. If you want to talk, if you want to learn more about it, get to Inside Tea, hit me up. I'd be love to chat with what I think could pop off with some multi-stream, which is where you stream to both, or just uploading your videos after the fact onto YouTube. I think it's worthwhile. So so there we are. I posted some pictures today. I'll get into Climate Day, Lobby Day here in a little bit, but yep, me today. We'll go through those here in a minute. But wanted to share my 5 steps to justice in America post. Let's make sure I do a good job of organizing my shabadubid shanaba. You can't see my phone, right? I should be more careful. Let's just double check settings. I frustratingly last week recorded a section and segment twice because I had a setting that I didn't mess with and calibrate correctly. And Paige, why are you behind? Have I already been live for... Why is it... Huh. When you're your own producer at the same time. Yep. Okay. Sounds good. And it's hard to be your producer at the same time when you don't have like an active chat. So I really hope to work on getting an active chat situation going and reaching more people so that we do not have these issues. Because when you have an active chat and your mic's accidentally muted for too long, they tell you. So hit us up. Come hang out on Fridays. We're only live for about an hour and a half. You can just drop in for a little bit and we will work on growing the audience and channel. For now, we hope you take a look. We hope you enjoy. And where did my music go? It was over here down there. And then I gotta change a setting and potentially blow my nose. Okay. Loop. And I should also make sure that I think we're fine right now. Okay. So, topics for this week. Let me close my window. Uh, we're gonna talk through Climate Lobby Day, which is an event I had earlier today. Started at 8 a.m. People started leaving maybe around 11 noon, but the group overall hung out, had got lunch around noon, and then some of us had some meetings still throughout the day, so we stuck around. I probably left there around 2:45 or so that I can make sure do all the things I wanted to do. And I know audio mixing on the fly. Audio mixing on the fly. Sounds good. Does it? Yeah, I think it does. Does it? Yeah, it does. Okay. Let's put my phone down. So, Climate Lobby Day began at 8 a.m., gathering in one of the churches near the state capitol. Over 150 people from across the state showed up for an event that was co-hosted by 350 Colorado, as well as I think it was like 40 other climate orgs. Groups like Colorado Rising, Climate Movement Co., Wild Earth Guardians, Commune, were either there at least in attendance or help organize and reach out to their membership. We gathered in that church space, learned about some of the bills, learned about strategies for lobbying, had some snacks, had some coffee, debriefed as a group about our strategy for talking to the elected officials that represent us. Since in Colorado we have 100 different legislators, each of them represents a different area of Colorado. And so you're able to try to get meetings with them and talk to their legislative assistants and really work towards influencing and giving them perspectives that help them see the importance of bills so that they can make those decisions and vote for them, which leads to those changes that will impact our lives now and for future generations. We had some time there before walking to the Capitol building and then taking a group picture. And then from the group picture, all entered the building, went through the security checkpoint, and started to try to get conversations with our legislators. I was partnered with another amazing person, and first time meeting them, but we became friends quickly and had a wonderful day together, learning about the different bills, working on our strategy for talking to our elected officials, and then later in the day having a meeting with an elected official's legislative assistant, since the business and they were still on the House floor working on bills. There was a press conference where we focused on this bill that will work to set a deadline for phasing out of oil and gas and work on transitioning, at the very least, transitioning the development of new wells, which then creates an important aspect of um, transitioning us towards the future we all know we need, but don't really have hard pressed deadlines on that happening. It doesn't stop oil and gas, it doesn't just stop production. Wells that already exist sometimes will stick around for 10 plus years, continuing to produce. So all this is trying to do is say, hey, maybe we need to slow down permitting and then eventually set a date to stop it. There are a number of other bills as well, and I can grab some of my paperwork from today. But this is one of those important issues. Our country, through tax money, has a budget that is over $1 trillion, and sometimes it can be hard to wrap your head around that amount of money. It can be even hard to wrap your head around billions of dollars. The concept of a billion, but that amount of money that we spend, it's like 60% of our budget is what our military, could go to infrastructure that can support us for centuries, rather than short-term profits of weapon manufacturers, oil and gas companies, and some of these other industries that either through tax strategies slash avoidance slash just lobbying to have taxes low, or get our government to spend on them, is coming at the cost of our current lives and what we can do for the long term. I want a world where I can have kids, I can have a long life and not have the beauty in the world snuffed out, and that can share with those future generations, share with those kids that beauty and showcase the moments that we fought to make a difference. So that is why so much of what I do focuses on the climate, and even more so now, calling out war, profiteering, and destruction and ceaseless killing. Because with $100 billion, with even $10 billion, if we put that to the proper use, I do believe we could solve world hunger. We could build speed rail throughout the U.S. We can house everyone who needs it. And then we get to the promised land, the period where we don't have to work or struggle as hard, and the little guy, those on the bottom that often are left out or left aside, they can benefit from, and we can jointly have a collective liberation of what is possible. And I think that's a vision worth fighting for, because it's like the alternative is a dystopia, where our future generations look back at this time as one of neglect and of one of greed, and corruption, and I think that's worth fighting against. It's like a Mad Max future versus a Star Trek future. if I can use an example given by an old mentor of mine. Um, so, uh, I know that sentiment is shared by so many others. The tricky part often comes down to how do we make that happen, though? It's the tricky part either becomes how and what are the solutions, and then how and what do we have to do to get those solutions passed. That second question has to do a lot with media, has a lot with communal collective power, and a lot with creating new systems and structures that old media and all these different systemic strongholds that are grasping at their power as it slowly kind of like turns the sand in their hands. How do we get through that? And then the solution side is more about bringing experts to the table, and cross-disciplinary people, bringing imagination, bringing possibility, and discussing all the things we can do, and then choosing some of those top solutions to bring forward. So I guess I'll talk about a few of those tonight. I know last few episodes I've been using a spreadsheet where I have I track some bills. It helps me decide which bills to focus on. I think today I don't know how much I have in me, just because it's been such a long 2 weeks, and it's been a long day, and I did not sleep super well last night. But we're gonna try our best to walk through some things together, to talk about some policy before we go and end for the evening. So let's, while I grab those papers, play another song. Well, how was this one? Oh, man, oh, shmano. Man, oh, shmano. Man, oh, shmano. Da, da. Okay. Dun, dun. Oh, did I have another packet? I did have another packet on me, didn't I? Oh, I guess this one's black and white, maybe? That's why it's different. That's good. Okay. Alright, so I signed up to be a leader for a climate lobby day group. Help lead my local area, and in conversations with our elected officials or their aides or staff. I got this manila folder. It had information going from the bills being discussed to the flow of the day, background on some of the strategy, where to find social media post information to help get out the word, and additionally some like colored sheets with facts and information about who my elected officials were. So for example, we have this one, which talks about the real costs and benefits of the oil and gas industry for Colorado. And it talks about how it's a smaller and smaller segment of our local economy, which was a talking point used for a long amount of time. which helps show the possible aspect of us being able to transition away. I think it was last year. It was like one of the first years where the renewable energy sector, it actually surpassed the oil and gas one. And it's, I think it shows more about the renewable energy sector growing than necessarily the oil and gas industry is going through changes, the fossil fuel industry. But they're still drilling and pushing for wells and exporting those monies for billions of profit. But less and less so are they a pivotal part of our local economy. Next, I won't go through this full toolkit. There are a number of different bills. There are a lot of different FAQ sheets. So if you have questions about an environmental bill coming through the process, leave a comment, let us know in the chat, and we can take a deeper dive into some of these. Especially as they come to committee and come down the line, I want to do more with lifting up some of the information that's here. It has to do with, I think these two are the toolkit. I can put that to the side. And I can look at this one. Because like some of these, if you may have not known this, and let me pull up, we'll just leave it full screen for now, actually. You might not know this, but oil and gas companies, when they're done with a well that's fracked, it still produces small amounts of methane. Maybe there's a small amount left in the well that can be pulled up over time, so the infrastructure is left there. What some companies are doing is they are selling those wells to shell companies or like other companies in the sector who then own these old wells, and sometimes it's like brought up in this way where it's like can be like some type of tax benefit. But what's often happening, rather than those companies cleaning up the wells, those shell companies that buy them go bankrupt. And what happens is the cost to cleaning up the wells goes on the taxpayer and the everyday person. And this issue, as long as some other issues with cleaning up old wells, is talked about in the repeal severance tax exemption for stripper wells. A bill sponsored by Representative Kathy Kipp and Senator Faith Winter, helps us figure out a better system for cleaning up old wells and it not being something that companies can find this workaround that puts the cost more and more on the taxpayer. There's a number of air quality bills this year coming through and ozone bills. Stuff about like HB 24/1330 air quality permitting. I talked about a number of these last week. So if you want a deeper dive, you can tune in and look at the end of last stream where I took a deeper dive looking at some of these air quality bills. And then I talked about it a little bit earlier, but the SB 24/159 modifications to energy and carbon management process, which has to deal with the phase out and cleanup. And it talks about stopping permits in 2030 being the number or the date where we stop just drilling and pushing more and more. One point I don't think it's talked about enough is there's a lot of assumptions built around the energy transition and this like date of, sometimes it's thrown out as like 2050, that we're trying to be net zero and be 100% renewable. Some of the issue with having a date that far out is we're not sending like metered dates between them, that we have like a 25% goal, a 50% goal. And so are we transitioning at a quick enough pace? But one of the things also is innovation and the need of oil and gas for future generations. Oil and gas, once dug up, often used, is a resource that we can't get back because it takes millions of years to develop. And there's assumptions that we'll be able to use technology to create some super fuel that itself can be created with sustainable energy, and there is this promised land where we can be 100% off fossil fuels. The thing is, that is awesome and let's get there, but we might not get there because there might be certain situations with winter storms, climate events, and aspects of our infrastructure. I mean, even if we get to 99% off oil and gas, 1% left, and we don't get to that point till 2050. And in the meantime, in the next, from 2024 to 2040, as we make that transition, we upend and use the majority of our oil and gas. Our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids, what are they supposed to do if we leave them no oil and gas? What if they need it for like space travel? What if they need it for another ice age? We're using that selfishly right now, and not really, I mean, collectively, but especially fossil fuel companies are using those resources now that those great grandkids won't have access to. Those resources that we can be conserving for an emergency are being used right now. If humanity faces another ice age and they need oil, even if it's a small amount, to get through in certain areas of the globe, what happens if we use the majority of our reserves in oil and gas right now? And I mean, there's so many other reasons as well, from air pollution to causing people's health to people who have never smoked before getting lung cancer to increased asthma and like just the unknown effects of what we're doing to our planet, primarily because of this issue, that we gotta do more. We gotta move quicker, and we gotta stop just letting certain corporations run the game. And I think the two biggest ones we need to face is the military-industrial complex and oil and gas. I would also probably put up there pharma. Big pharma taking advantage of people, EpiPens and certain things that cost them a few dollars to make, costing insurance or taxpayers or just everyday citizens hundreds of dollars, if not more. Anything, big pharma, oil and gas, military. There are others like I think, issues with some food producers. Um, and if we can create a more healthier equation in these sectors, I think we get to a point where we pretty much create heaven on earth. We create a utopia. We create a system where no matter where you come from, no matter who you are, what your needs are, we can cover you. We can support you, and not only you but your future generations and and people down the line are safe as well. Um, and with technology, the different things coming out of like AI and regenerative agriculture and battery development, the technology's options are on the table. It's just about, are we able to stop? If we're able to slow down, pause, and course correct in time. And I think this is the decade where we need to figure it out. So bills like this are huge. Um, they just are. So that is my spielio. Anything else I want to get to today? Um, I didn't have a lot of time this week to uh, really like create segments for me to get to in certain bills. I know that Moms Demand Action had an advocacy day yesterday. And I don't think I got any emails updates from them. I can double check. Moms Demand. They're working on bills um, like banning certain military weapons. They're working on different protections. Some of those are more contentious than others, but I mean, the right and conservatives like to make them all contentious, which really does muddy the water for when there's a bill that they really want to try to push back on. Just to be frank with y'all, um, with y'all conservatives that watch my show. Um, what else? Oh, and then today, um, so today on the House floor, they're doing the third reading for a number of bills. And the third reading is the reading that happens right before they all vote on a bill. We go there to try to pull, if representatives have a minute, you can try to pull them off the House floor to talk to them briefly before they go back in there to vote or hear what their colleagues have to say. But on a third reading, they're not supposed to leave the room till the vote happens, and so they're kind of just stuck in there doing their work, even if they want to come to outside and talk to people. Now, one of the bills being discussed today, and I think there's two bills on it, were around like gender affirming care. I think it had to do with that, actually, the name change. I can probably just pull it up, the names of each of these bills. Hold on. Yeah. Damn, Daniel, damn. Non-legal name changes is one. Today's full schedule. House joint house calendar. I wonder if I can find the exact moment this is happening. Because I was called. Yeah. It's Colorado house floor video. Colorado channel, I think, is where you can watch it. From today. Awesome. And then I can bring up Zamadeus. Watch on YouTube. And let's. Oh, perfect. This lady. So everyone who wants to speak on something can, even if they are wild and out, even if they're doing their own thing. And often what ends up happening is this time is used to farm political clips or spew. I mean, it can be used for positive, it can be used for good. You can go up there, you can tell stories, you can speak for audiences that don't typically have their own voice, and bring good science forward. You can also tell one story that you heard through some political group you went to and find whatever science helps back what you want to say and spew whatever the heck it is you want to spew. And so, I and I guess she went up there multiple times, so maybe it's this. I don't know what time it was that. Uh, um, Spew whatever you want to spew. And we were there. We were waiting to see if it would end soon. See if we can talk to our legislators. And I caught just like a few minutes of this, and like it boiled my blood because it's like a personal attack. It's literally a personal attack to who I am and where, and being there. And we're gonna watch that together because thanks Colorado Channel for hosting all these meetings.
Again, I want to emphasize that I'm honored that Tiara allowed her name to be slandered to fight for the rights of others. Vote yes on Tiara's law.
Representative Bradley.
This lady.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We talk about dignity. Let's talk about dignity for victims when we come up here and talk about dignity. Trans are 6 times more likely to be stopped by police. I'd love to see that research. How do you know that someone's even trans before you pull them over? So I find that very odd. And I'm gonna go to Next Benedict, because Next Benedict walked into the hospital and said that she bullied those kids and poured water on them before anything even happens.
Bullied? She said she flicked water. 4 people teasing her friend. What are you talking about, lady? And then they jumped her. 3 people jumped her. Them. I don't. Oh, this lady.
So let's be very clear. We don't know the toxicology reports. We don't know why Next Benedict died.
Honestly, it was likely medical malpractice that they didn't do full CT scan and find an underlying issue. You're just trying to call into question by bringing something up as something to call into question. You're just muddying the water. Okay.
So when we say it's because of bullying and they engage the bullying, I'd be very careful. You say this bill was about misdemeanors. This bill is about felons. Let's talk about felonies. Let's talk about felonies. These aren't traffic violations. Let's talk about felonies. Violent crimes like murder, violent sexual assault, assault with serious bodily injury, sex crimes, kidnapping, strangulation, rape, aggravated extortion, trafficking, prostituting kids. Oh, no, that's just a misdemeanor here.
I just want to check audio levels really quick. Bear with me.
Stopped by police? I'd love to.
Okay, it's coming through. Continue.
In Colorado, my apologies. So you can do all of these things, and it's your right to change your name. Let's talk about dignity. The bill sponsor said it's your right based on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But again, what about the victims of these crimes? Let's talk about their stories. Let's talk about dignity for the victims. The woman who was almost strangled to death, where's her dignity? The woman who was raped. The child who was kidnapped.
So I guess there's the one point they're pushing is if you have a misdemeanor crime, I think it's like only if you have a felony can you not maybe use this. And so pushing back against name change if you have some of these misdemeanor crimes. I can pull up on my other screen really quickly this bill. Name change. We'll let her continue for a sec.
Internet sexual exploitation of a child. Exposing and masturbating in front of a child, that's a felony. The family of a member that had a child or family member murdered. Domestic abuse. Serious child abuse resulting in serious bodily injury or death.
So let's just really quick look at this bill. I just make it full screen. There you go. Name change to conform with gender identity, considering permitting a name change for a person convicted of a felony to conform with the person's gender identity. Current law specifies that conditions a person must meet in order to change the person's name. If the person was convicted of a felony, among those conditions is that a person must show good cause to change the person's name to a name different from the name the person was convicted under. The bill states that good cause includes changing petitioner's name to conform with the petitioner's gender identity. But I assume there's a history in that. Let's see if we can read the full bill. Good cause will share the person's name. Court may grant a petition for a change for a petitioner who was previously convicted of a felony in the state or any other state, or adjudicated a juvenile delinquent for an offense that would constitute a felony, or educated a juvenile for an offense felony. The court finds that the petitioner must have a legal name change in order to be for the Department of Revenue to issue driver's license or identification card in that name, and if all of the following requirements are met. Proposed name is a change to a name under which the petitioner was convicted or adjudicated, except that for a good cause, the court may allow a change of name other than the name under which petitioner was convicted or adjudicated. For the purposes of the subsection, good cause includes changing the petitioner's name to conform with the petitioner's gender identity. And then that's the amendment. Section Safety Clause. The General Assembly finds, determines, declares that this act is necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety, or for appropriations for the support of maintenance of departments of the state and state institutions. And let's see how she finishes it.
Representative Bradley, I do want to give you latitude, as I have others, but the bill is focused on name change, not the crimes themselves. Thank you.
It's on, okay, can I clarify, Madam Speaker?
Please.
It's on name changes for people who commit felonies.
Yes.
I'm talking about the felonies in Colorado.
Yes, Representative Bradley, thank you for that.
Thank you.
But as we continue to talk about crimes that have been convicted, people have been convicted of, what I'm asking is that you relate that back to the name change. Thank you.
I'm talking about victims of crimes of felonies, and when we change our names, where is the dignity to the victims? There's a member in this chamber who has sexual allegations against her. We talk about that. We talk about the victim of that crime. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've compared that to civil rights leaders. We compared it to my Lord and Savior saying he's a criminal. We have to be careful what we say down at this well. It's time for us to take a stand as legislators for the victims in your district. Victims of violent crimes, victims of sexual crimes, those are felonies. And by this bill, we're allowing them to change their name, all in the name of dignity.
It still has to be approved by a judge. You still have to go to a judge, say, I want to get this changed. I want to get this changed to conform with my gender identity. The judge can look, what are your felonies? Can look, what are some of the things you're doing to change your gender identity, or through a mix of different research they can do, and then make a call. If your goal really was to protect people, you would, rather than just spewing some of the stuff, you would maybe propose that certain type of felonies, you need to, I wouldn't necessarily propose this, but if she really wanted to change something, she could propose an amendment, and that says, for these felonies around, like, maybe it's sexual misconduct and violence, you must have a clean track record from doing anything for 5 years. That can be argued and discussed on its merits. There's just a lot of assumptions to hear that there's, like, I think, like, people aren't people, and she's going to share with us later, because this isn't the first testimony. I saw her later testimony, because there's another gender-related bill, where she literally says that, like, anyone who's, like, queer or trans is, like, mentally unhealthy. So I think she, like, betrays some of what she's saying right now hearing about, for us, it's going to be like 5 minutes, but for her, like in an hour. But she's just up there trying to win political points.
This is about public safety. This is about child safety. We are one of the worst states when it comes to public safety, and this bill will lead to that. This is about transparency and accountability for criminals, not carving out a special section of criminals that get to change their name. I can't even believe I have to come up here and argue this. This bill is about making criminals the victims. And again, this is not misdemeanors. These aren't traffic violations like it was said. These aren't being pulled over for not having your license. These are violent offenders in most of these cases because they're felons.
Colorado breakdown of felonies. I wonder if there's stats on this. Colorado felony types in Colorado. That's still not probably gonna get me there. It gives me what different types of felonies. Felony statistics. Felony statistics in Colorado. Colorado crime statistics. I mean, if she cared about about those areas, she could just propose an amendment, like I said, that creates more due process around that. Let's go 2023. Colorado, and then theme violent crime. Go. Let's see what it pulls up. Pull up. And then also there'd be a record. Um, 29,000 violent crime cases. 2023 was down from 2022, but still technically up from 2019. It was mostly assault, followed by non-consensual sex offenses. Here, I can show you on the here. Colorado crime statistics. Violent crime, assault, murder is very low. Only, I mean, I guess it's still 310 people that were murdered, but number of crimes cleared, though. Does that mean? What does cleared crime mean? Yeah, you could try to, like, you could have proposed different types of amendments. Do your job. Okay, anywho, let her continue.
This bill is about making criminals the victims, and we need to take a stand for the victims in our district. This is not about respect. This is not about coming after a certain community. This is about protecting the children and the people in our districts that voted us in here because we said that we were going to make Colorado a safer place. And when we come with bills like this that carve certain criminals out that are allowed to change their name, it is not fair and it does not give justice to the victims of their crimes. I urge a strong no vote on this bill.
Representative Evans.
Okay, and then let's see what she says later, because I think she has other thoughts on this topic. Actually, let's hear this one.
Ended. Political world. Rights are associated with virtue. Virtue is not associated with felony.
Representative DeGraff, you have 1 minute remaining.
It is evident, what Judith Butler said, that queer theory was an attack on democracy itself. This is an attack on public safety. I urge a no vote.
Representative Tatone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So first of all, I just wanted to say that I'm patently offended by the generalization and characterization of trans people with crimes against children. This is something that happens all the time, and it's a manufactured trope, and it's blatant fear-mongering. Generalizing people with a group of criminals is fear-mongering. Yes, it is. I won't stand for that. But, first of all, anybody who has any kind of crime, they're formerly incarcerated. They try to reintegrate into society again. They have a felony record. It's really difficult for them. We've passed several laws here to help folks not have to live under the shadow of their mistakes, because that's what happens. And I know many folks make mistakes, including past and present members of this body. The guy who created Tabor is a 3-time felon. And if you go on social media, I'm sure you'll find a whole bunch of people who would like to tell you that I've been arrested, charged, convicted of something. I don't know what, because that's not true. But people want to make up those things because they want me to be the big scary trans person and be grouped in to all the things that this side likes to say about this stuff. Some people have privilege to make jokes about being arrested and use their positions to get past these prior offenses. But for trans people, especially black trans women, it's not that easy. They have the burden of the atmosphere of hostility created about trans people in general. Having to out themselves constantly, just trying to get a job, housing, and basic things that we all take for granted. I want to point out that many here supported my bill to protect sex workers. It was a unanimous vote. And Tiara testified on that bill. And she told you the stories about how she was targeted and treated by the police when she was beaten up because she was involved in sex work.
And Representative Tatone, I'll ask you to bring it to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. But those are the charges that ended up getting us here today to fight for this bill. I'm certain that, Tiara wants to live a life that many of you would like to approve of. But she hasn't been given that kind of support. And her and people like her need that kind of support. That's a failure on us and others' state policies as well. Look at who's supporting and opposing.
That's a good point. There's a felony. There is a judicial process of time or some type of remediation. And the system's supposed to work to bring them back into society as a contributing person, and they've served the time, the judicial thing of that mistake. If we are still worried about felons, that should be a call to action for our government and jail system, not this bill around name to conform with your
See it on the
identity.
Secretary of State's website. There's no opposition to this bill. So if we want to continue to make a difference for certain people and then expect them to conform to our standards, then we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask why. Why do some people laugh at arrests and convictions like there's no big deal, then with other people, we give no leeway at all? No opportunity to give them a path to a better life. It's a double standard. So let's not continue to keep certain people down and give these folks at least the opportunity to live their authentic lives. This bill does not interfere with background checks. It does not make it unsafe for our communities. Please vote yes on the bill.
Okay, this is a detour, but good job. Like they said, background checks would still, there'd be a record of things and changes. This still has to go through the court system, still has to get approved. The only people who it would stop are just like nosy, like, are just like neighbors who just like want to like Google you and then like figure out all your past dirt.
Representative Garcia.
Oh, Lorena, how did I say no?
Thank
Lorena's my
you,
favorite.
Madam Speaker, and I want to just express my sincere gratitude to all of you here, my colleagues, for sitting through, I think, what is now approaching 7 hours on what I completely agree with my colleagues on this side. We should not have been spending this time debating a bill like this. Where I do
Just
disagree
wasting time, yeah.
is that one bill might carry more importance than another. The reason that each of us in this chamber can bring 5 bills is because we know that there are important issues to every single one of us in every single one of our communities, and we should not ever question that for anyone. We've heard many things in the many hours. What I want to reiterate right now from my colleagues who I firmly believe will vote yes, who may be wavering on this because of the lies and mistruths that have been said at this well. I need to reiterate that the discrimination and transphobia in society forces our trans community to have to take, unfortunately, actions and illegal means to make a living and survive. The disproportionality of the trans community in our criminal justice system is why we are having this discussion right now. This bill does not allow anyone to hide. If anything, through the process of petitioning for a name change brings everything back up. Everything. It starts with 2 fingerprints. One submitted to the CBI, the other to the FBI. Once you submit those, you have 90 days to alert every single jurisdiction that you have been prosecuted in. Those jurisdictions then alert any victim, if there are victims in those crimes. You have to write an explanation, a petition that explains why this is a good cause. You file the petition. You appear in court to argue your case. and then the judge decides for you. The arguments against this bill, to me, say that our justice system is not to be trusted, that we do not trust our judges to make a sound decision for the safety of our community, and I disagree with that. We should be trusting our judges in which they have an already written law to give them the right to say yes or no. Tiara's law is one about equity, it's about justice, it's about rights, and yes, it is about dignity, and we have the opportunity today to legislate dignity, and I urge a yes vote.
Mic drop. Okay.
And I will tell you why again. You know, I need to address something that fits within this bill. We often, you can please sit down, you don't need to stand. We have heard the conflation of trans identity with criminals. And what happened last weekend? One of our trans leaders, who has been on the forefront of this issue, was assaulted. Not by a trans person, but by a cisgender male.
Representative Garcia, I would ask you to keep the conversation to the bill.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
So when we take positions and we decide who is worthy of a right and who is not, it is our obligation in this body to recognize that in this particular bill, we truly are supporting the most marginalized in this state. Please vote yes.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Studies that demonstrate.
So, that was one bill that was being discussed today. And then this was the speech that boiled my bloods. And led to a heartfelt, amazing moment with a friend. But we will listen to this nonsense for a few minutes. This is HB 24-1039, non-legal name changes, concerning non-legal name changes for students in schools. Requires public schools and institute charter schools to use a student's preferred name if a preferred name is requested by the student. Deems a school's refusal to use a student's preferred name as a form of discrimination. There's a task force that gets created, and requires the department to appoint members. The task force helps implement and move this forward. Requires public schools and institute charter schools to use a student's preferred name if a preferred name is requested by the student.
Madam Speaker. Scientific research regularly and unsurprisingly produces peer-reviewed studies that demonstrate the depth and persistence of male-female distinctions based on biological realities. And while what I say in love with no disrespect, science also has repeated.
Yeah, I mean, there's different organs, there's different things going on, different chemicals.
Told us that a woman who believes herself to be a man and vice versa is suffering from a significant mental health issue.
And then you're just being transphobic and hateful. I'm non-binary. I am gender fluid. And I heard that and I was like, I really wanted to go up and, well, I first wanted to yell at her, but then I was like, I wonder at one point you're gonna leave this room so I can come up to you and be like, tell me about how I'm, what is the exact words she used?
Man and vice versa is suffering from a significant mental health issue.
A significant mental health issue. I am really struggling to contain myself and not yell at you curse words.
For decades, gender dysphoria was designated a mental illness both in the United States and elsewhere.
Because scientists and people be transphobic.
As seen, for example, in versions 1 through 5 of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder.
They also used to say that like women who show too much emotion were also mentally not right and should like go to shock therapy and be sent to like facilities.
Historically, it was rare, 0.01% of the population, and those that suffered from it were overwhelmingly male. But increasingly, mental health professionals and gender activists have promoted the notion by faith, despite all of the evidence to the contrary that sex and gender are distinct.
Research, information about being left-handed. For a while, being left-handed itself was something that was discriminated against, would get people, was not okay with society in certain circles, and the percentage of people who claim to be left-handed was smaller. As we've seen that change, left-handed is something that happens to just a certain percent of people are left-handed. That number of people who claim to be left-handed rise to a point where then it more or less steadily it stabilized. I think it's like 14 or like it's like 14% or something. The same thing is happening here. Is not only are we hearing that from the medical community were discriminating and creating medical reasons to try to dissuade and demonize and create not prescriptions but like medical reasons to try to change people who had these expressions and thoughts about their gender identity. But society as a whole, it was dangerous, and there wasn't information about understanding these things to the point they were bottled up or kept hidden. But we know, we can look back 1,000 years, 2,000 years, that within indigenous communities and communities around the world, these concepts have huge historical background. And you're just cherry picking so that you can spew hate from the well. I don't know why it's called well, but from the speaker, from the stage. And It's not good. You need to lose your office.
That gender is a matter of one's self-perception of identity, and that this self-diagnosis is beyond the right or ability of any other person to question or deny. Now, according to Abigail Schreier in the United States, gender dysphoria has increased some 1,000% since 2010, and most of those suffering are teenage girls. In the UK, the increase is larger, 4,000% in 10 years. This increase should be shocking, not because of its affirmation of some truth, but because the hurt and pain being caused to so many. It is important.
Who's it hurting?
To not lose some.
Who's it causing pain? I mean, it's like, you're getting all riled up. You'd probably say it causes you pain, but you're just being.
Right, too, that of the claim being made is a truth claim about identity, purpose, and meaning. It is not based on science, it is based on faith. We now have testimony after testimony from many people that at one point believed they were a different sex, were affirmed by others, and thus continued a painful and self-destructive journey that ended once they realized they had mistaken or deceived. I've met one of those detransitioners.
You met one of those? Have you met a normal transitioner? Have you met anyone on the queer spectrum? I've met one of these.
The other day, whose parents were told if she was not allowed to transition, she would kill herself. That, to me, is fear-mongering. We do a tremendous
It sounds like a call for help, not a fearmonger.
disservice to those suffering from issues like these by affirming them in an effort to be kind and accepting instead of telling the truth. We have lost our way on what it means to love an individual, being unwilling to have hard conversations about reality because those conversations may offend. What we are doing is not loving. It is not loving to tell someone they are okay when they are hurting and need help. And it is definitely
How's that related?
not loving to tell them to hide that from their parents. As might be expected from the refusal to tell the truth when most needed, lawsuits all over this country are now being filed against providers of these medical and gender-affirming services and those with deep regrets about transitioning. Over 50,000 detransitioners, while they were minors, are telling their stories. Just look at what's happening in Europe. It's heartbreaking. But none of this matters at the moment because this is now the state's preferred faith. One that, with this bill and others like it, no longer allows even room for conscientious objection. And by definition, love is truth. It is not truthful to claim a gender other than the one that God gave. And I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to tell children that all of their friends were born the right way except for them. I think that is a dangerous.
You're the one saying that. That's not the point. Also, they're not alone. Your logic is terrible. Some of the people we allow to be elected. What's going on? What's going on here? That's Reuters. I'm trying to fact check her like 40,000 number or whatever she sent out. On average, 97% of people who are transgender are happy with their decision to transition. Only 3% of trans people experience some form of regret. In Europe, there's over 186 million in funding for anti-gender movements coming from the Russian Federation. Furthermore, they have over 50 anti-gender actors operating within the continent. Of course, this leads to conversations around detransitioning becoming ripe with misinformation. One detransition study claims an 80% desistance rate in trans children. However, when the study was scrutinized, it was discovered that the methodology was deeply flawed. The study in question did not differentiate between the following: young people with gender dysphoria, young people who socially but not medically transitioned, and young people who are simply exploring gender diversity. In fact, nearly half of the children involved in the study could not be located at its conclusion. Dope. We love Russian influence. Love it.
And one of the most hurtful things I have ever heard somebody say. With this bill, a teacher and all those caught in its net can no longer simply look away. Now they have to participate in it. Teachers now have to participate in this.
Teachers don't care. I mean, far-right teachers care. But, like...
They are being forced, in effect, to pledge with allegiance that the emperor actually had clothes. And let us be clear, this will turn into a test of whether the teacher used the name with meaning. Maybe not at first, but eventually. If there is any doubt in that teacher's conviction, look out. Allegations of discrimination will be coming. Say it like you mean it will be the direction. Bend the knee or it's discrimination from you. All, of course, for the state's currently preferred faith system, transgenderism. Next year, maybe it's
what does that even mean?
something else. Either way, it's wrong. When you unhook from the laws of nature and nature's God, as this does, you will invariably have clashes of perceived rights with actual ones because there is no longer order. There is no longer truth. There is just the state's preference over priority of what it has created as rights.
No longer truth? What?
No one is saying that an adult can't decide for themselves their identity, but a child and my children are not a playground for our perversions. They are children to be raised by their parents, not the faith of this state and this legislative body. It is the right and responsibility, according to Colorado Revised Statutes 22-130, it is the right and responsibility of parents to guide the education and upbringing of their children. An essential role of parents is ensuring the safety and quality of their children's education is to remain active, engaged, and fully informed about what is occurring in their children's classrooms and within the school environment. Parents love their children, and they surely love them more than
Some parents love their children. I mean, just saying. That's like one of my, some of these parent rights things. It's like, parents don't go to college to learn about education or the intricacies of sexual education or the importance of counseling in community, the background of how do we create positive mental health and safe spots to share aspects. Some households can be iron tight grip on what they think is fine for their kids to learn, so that they can bring and by the numbers, because some people slip through the cracks or get away, but by the numbers indoctrinate their, and that's like, I don't know if any of this is happening consciously. I'm sure it happens sometimes with certain places this is happening consciously. It's especially with maybe religious education, or parenting, but it's more subconsciously. But parents are not creating safe spaces and can lead to, and they don't have the training sometimes. We don't have like a uniform system that when you become a parent, you learn about the best ways to raise kids, the best way to teach kids. And at least on the teaching kids, respecting kids, and creating a space for them to healthfully learn and grow up, you know who does get those trainings? Teachers, school systems. They're not all maybe learned to or listened to or without mistake, but you're making a lot of assumptions.
Legislators and school employees do. Of course, there are exceptions, but that should never mean that we usurp the rights of good parents like myself everywhere because of hurtful experiences by some. Parents are concerned about bills like this one because it goes to the very meaning of the pursuit of happiness on questions of purpose, identity, and faith. These are not questions for the state to direct, and they are certainly not questions for the state to compel. But instead, here today, the state is interjecting in what should be a safe place, the schools. It's chosen faith for our children using our tax dollars, and state employees.
This is such a weird line, choosing faith, and then she's like, our faith is transgenderism. It's like a way to express yourself. It's not a faith. I don't have transgender church. Ugh. If I did, it'd be way cooler than your church. And this is just like kids wanting teachers and staff to respect their names. How does this hurt security in any way? It's like, you must not like interact with a lot of kids who like enjoy being creative and working on things.
At the risk of a strict state-enforced penalties, this is wrong and dangerous.
You're wrong.
In the end, this will create more heartbreak and dysfunction for afflicted students and is the very opposite of free speech and wise counsel. The compelled speech in this bill denies the combined wisdom of scriptures used by people of faith, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, which strongly affirm the male-female sexual distinction as indicated by biological realities. Prudence would seem to demand those that claim to know better proceed carefully. But there seems to be a shortage of prudence nowadays, and especially in this House. This is a dangerous precedence. I will not tell my children that there is anything different than two genders, and shame on any of us to say that children can go behind their parents' back.
Shame on anyone who says there's more than two genders. Okay, I'm done. I'm done listening to her. So I was in the Capitol. I was listening to this because we were working on climate bills. And the third reading, none of our legislators could leave this room. And so I was there listening, and I didn't know this was the what they were talking about today. And I had to listen as she called me someone with a severe mental issue. I didn't have to listen, I guess. I could have just walked away, but I was just there listening. I was just like, what's going on today? And then my buddy who was with me, we were lobby day together. She walked over because she was talking to someone else in the room. And then she walked back over to me, and I told her, I was like, this lady just told me I have a severe mental health. And then on a snap, my new friend was like, there is nothing mentally wrong with you and how you express yourself. And then then she said some other kind words, and then we almost cried together. But then we walked away. We got out of there immediately and made a joke about maybe we should just go grab a drink immediately. And then, but it's just like, what's going on with the logic here? Like, I understand that you raised somewhere that where you don't understand this, and you must have no people in your life who are dealing with this, or at the very least willing to tell you because they know you're where you stand. But I think the more likely concern is you've just created such a small bubble within your church and your community that you have no one to talk to about these things. And so you create this idea in your head that there's a faith of transgenderism that is like combating your faith of Christ. And there are states where this is the prevailing view. And this is why I am involved in politics. There are people who don't organize or get involved. And in the absence of everyday people, of caring, loving, empathetic people willing to listen and connect with others, there is a vacuum of power that has been bolstered by media and bolstered by greed that has been allowed to take positions of power. And why I can't not be involved. The opportunity cost, the flip side of saying, darn it, this system is so hard to change. It takes so long and involves so much work and effort and learning and organizing and putting yourself out there. And I guess it depends on what role you do. But the alternative is that those who through their faith, through these different things, have this hate and this fear in them, get power, that we can't back down. We can't let that win over love and connection and empathy. And so we must not blind ourselves from this. We can't shut ourselves off from the emotions it makes us feel. We must channel them into productive means to win against this.
With a non-legal name change. I urge a no vote on this very dangerous.
And she's lying. She's just lying. It's not dangerous. She's a liar. And we'll hear from one positive person before we bounce. Let's go, Tim Hernandez.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
It's an honor to serve with you as well.
All right. Thank you, colleagues, for your time today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in deep support and in favor of this bill. I asked for an aye vote. There is a couple pieces of debate that I want to make sure are directly addressed. And I will speak today as a licensed public school teacher in the actual state of Colorado. There are a lot of folks who are up here saying what this will do to teachers. I am an actual teacher who actually works with real students and who has worked with students in this direct and inherent process. And I want to tell a story because this did happen to a student that I worked with when I was a first-year teacher at North High School. And for anybody in here who's been a teacher, you know how difficult your first-year teaching is and how little you know. And so when a student approached me with a concern that I didn't feel that I had the adequate resources to be able to support the student in, I asked for support from counselors. I asked for support, and I was directed to a wonderful place called the Trevor Project, which does a lot of deep support for LGBT+ students, specifically students who are non-binary or who might be transgender. And I want to make it really clear today, the defense of potentially voting this bill down is to say that we want to continue to allow teachers or educational institutions to discriminate against a student. We are defending a version of discrimination. I just want to be very clear as a public school teacher that discrimination damages relationships with students, and that's not positive to the educational outcomes that we're working on. But I want to be very clear that I have worked with students of all different ages, that children absolutely do have the opportunity and the right to consent, but I also have a really important point, because in hearing debate today, I've heard all kinds about medical processes and bodies and all of these things, and actually I kind of want to ask for it, but I'm not going to have the bill read at length, because in reviewing the entire bill, I don't see the word body in here at all. Which tells me that there's only one group of folks in this building who are talking about children's bodies in a bill that has nothing to do with children's bodies. We're talking about names on the top of a worksheet. We are not talking about medical surgeries. We are not talking about the bodies of children. But I am fascinated to hear our colleagues discuss children's bodies in the ways that they have when that is not a topic of the bill. I think it's really important in one final point. That we have used interchangeably homophobia and transphobia and these other pieces, that there is a clear difference and distinction between the two, and I just want to be very clear that we are seeking to prevent discrimination based upon gender identity and gender expression, and specifically relating to the name of a student, which is very clear in falling into the legal precedents to prevent things like transphobia from taking place in public institutions that receive public dollars. And so I ask for an aye vote on this bill, and I ask for deep support and solidarity with trans communities always. Thank you.
Representative Grisel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I just want to read a very short letter that I received from a constituent on this matter.
Okay. It gets me fired up. It gets me... I mean, I guess it's obvious. I'm both an ally and a member of the community. I love the support. The haters gonna hate, but like, also they're doing terrible things, and I'm fired up, so I should not keep going, cause I need to settle myself. It's also Friday. Why shouldn't it be getting pulled into letting them affect me on a Friday night? But yeah, that's part of my day. My part of my day was seeing that hate, and I was just being like, oh. I think that's where I'm gonna end it. Maybe we'll do some more of these watches of watching them talk on these bills. I like to myself normally take a look at the bill before hearing other people speak on it, but it's also good to hear what the sides and different perspectives are. So thank you, Colorado Channel. Thank you to those who show up with love and working to make the world better first, rather than fear or discrimination or hate. Those we've already discussed today where some of this comes from. The world is a changing place, and that said, some of these topics go back thousands of years. Go back to cultures that were willing to accept versus cultures that were violent normally against people who looked or behaved differently. It's pretty obvious in modern day society, I think, what the right choice is. And this has been a reminder about why I do what I do and what's on the table. So in a way, I guess I thank you for that. This has been the Friday Colorado Policy English channel or show. This is the community-driven channel. My name is Braden Miguel. The fight for a better future continues. If that's something that you're interested in supporting, we have a fundraiser, an actual investment page where some of the projects we're working on have the chance to have long-term profit, working to build a startup and company that has wide-reaching impacts, help break down barriers to these systems, bring people together, and move forward positive and meaningful solutions. We do this through educational products, media, events, and there are so many opportunities out there, from tech to meeting with people to creating and supporting communities. This is a template we're using here in Colorado that others can use. If that sounds like something you want to support with a $5 donation, a $50 donation, a $500 donation, somewhere in between, or anywhere upwards to, for any of our big spendos, to $2,500, you can be part of our journey and have a share of future dividends. Big plans and big change can start from humble beginnings. Thank you for all of our supporters already. The friends, the community members, the allies, the family who have supported us thus far, who have believed in me, who want to support me, who want to be a part of this shared vision for positive change. I'm getting emotional. It means a lot. We got this. It's not easy. And that's why community is so important. Communities with shared values changed my life. Gave me confidence to put myself out there, express myself, and that I wasn't alone. So thank you. We're signing off. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, weekend, month, week, year, life. Signing off. All right, where's the button that turns this off?